So today it was time to tackle this silver tray I bought a few years ago. I got it from Facebook Marketplace for an absolute bargain, but as you can see it was getting rather tarnished, and I decided that the silver just wasn't a bit of me, to be honest. It didn't really go with anything else that we had in our home. So I gave it a good clean with some soapy water, made sure it was completely dried before I took out the chalk paint, just to give it a little bit of colour. Now I'm using an Sloan chalk paint, which I still had left over from a previous project, and I would definitely recommend getting a good quality chalk paint for tackling a project like this. So Sloan, but alternatively Rust-Oleum or Mineral Fusion are also great options. Now I didn't prime this particular project, as with chalk paint you can go straight over the top of it. It sticks to metal, it sticks to silverware, so it didn't really need the primer. I didn't paint the underneath of the tray. I just went around the outsides and just paying particular attention to the feet, all that gorgeous detail, and the handles as well. I did paint underneath the handles. I didn't show that in the video, but I flipped it over and just did the underneath of the handles since they were showing from different angles. So in total it took me about 4 coats of paint to get full coverage. Just make sure that you leave each layer to dry in between before applying the next one. Sometimes with chalk paint in particular it can get a little bit stodgy, so if you're finding it difficult to get the full coverage, take a very simple water mister, spray some water on. That will reactivate the paint and make it a lot easier. So for the next step I took my matte Mod Podge to give a layer to the top of the tray, and this will form a really good base for the transfers we're going to be using for this project. Just give it a good coverage and leave to dry. So I got these gorgeous designs, these Mystic Hydrangea transfers from Redesigned with Prima, and I think they go perfectly with the pink of the paint. I have a quick look to see which ones I want to use and just cut out the designs. I then have a bit of a dry run, just placing them here and there on the tray, having a look to see what I think is going to look best. Once I've made a decision, just very carefully peel away the backing and just gently placing the design where you want it to go. Now as you can see I'm putting this one on a curve slightly, which works absolutely fine. I'm just very carefully with my fingers placing it and just kind of just smoothing that curve into place before grabbing the transfer tool, which comes with the pack as well, and then all you do, you just rub the design where you need it to go, just carefully going over it, and then once you're happy with it, very carefully peel away that plastic and have a look to see if the design is actually transferred onto the tray, and then going back over any areas that still need it, you just push it back, give it another rub, and then very carefully sort of work from left to right, or from right to left if you're left-handed, whichever your preference is. So I didn't speed up this particular part of the video because I wanted to show you how simple it is to do, and also how you can line the flowers up. So obviously I've done the bottom part, I've done the leaves, so I'm taking the top part, the flower here, just peeling it away from the backing, and exactly the same process, just line it up. Try not to drop it, there you go, and line up the two pieces, carefully placing it down, giving it a quick wipe over with your fingers, getting rid of any bubbles if there are any, and then taking the transfer tool and doing exactly the same thing, just rubbing it on there, making sure that your design sticks to the tray. So you can also place the flowers over or the designs over the top of each other. I wanted to have the bigger flowers slightly in front of the flower that I'd already put on there. So exactly the same thing, you can absolutely do that. I'm having a bit of a look to see where I want it, and in the end decide to go slightly lower, and once again kind of just sit on that curve with the leaf. So before I take the transfer tool, I normally just place it down and very carefully smooth it over with your finger, just so it's got something to stick to, before then taking the tool and just really sticking it down onto the actual tray, and that way you just finish off your tray. So once you're happy that there are no bits sticking up anymore, give everything a bit of a smooth over, and then I gave my design another 2 layers of Mod Podge, leaving each layer to dry in between. It won't make your project waterproof, but it will allow you to wipe it with a damp cloth. And then last but not least, I took my Sloan warm gold gilding wax and went just around the tray to add some gold details to the sides, the handles and the feet. I think it just adds a bit of another dimension to the tray, and I think it pulls it together very nicely. Now you can find a gilding wax in all different variety of different colours. They do silver, they do copper. Obviously I still had this one to hand, and I think it goes very well with the pink. It's one that I had left over. I normally go in quite gently. I work with my fingers quite a lot. You can do it with a brush. I would very much recommend just going very easy to begin with. You can always add more. It's a bit more tricky to take it away without having to paint over the whole project, but I think it really just brings out that detail. I decided just to do the sides, the handles and the feet. Of course you can add as much or as little as you like. And for me, this project now feels so much better for my home. You can have it as a display piece on a dresser. I use it to place a couple of items of jewellery or perhaps a candle or two on the bedside table. I hope you enjoyed this project. For more inspiration and craft projects, make sure to come and check me out at my website at onceaduckling.com.